This video will be a two-part video that shows how to find values in a database, and not just one single table in the database, but searching through all tables in the database. That is the first section. The next section in the video will show how to implement this in the selection tool. As you know, selection is used to work with databases. I have a file open here with some SQL in it, and what this SQL will show how the logic is done to find the values in the database. If I run this SQL text, you will see what happens, and what's important to note here is this: we are searching all tables for the name USA. We got a result, and here are some columns that I will explain what later. Orders, ship, and we can see column name, table name, F name, and some names. The value there is, if you are used to SQL Server, DBO is known, and the value that was found, USA. So how is that done? First, here we are creating a temporary table, and that is called find text value in database. If that table already exists, it is deleted, and here we create it. The next part here will go through all tables, and the last part selects the result. This SQL, Transact SQL, is using tables from information schema, and information schema is an ISO standard for databases to query for information in the database structure. So by doing that, we can easily move this script to different database vendors. We can see here the first part here is selecting tables, and I will explain soon how that is done, but for now I'm going to show as you can see here, the database that we are working on is the Northwind database, and that is a free database that you can download and install on SQL Server. It will it shows table names, table type, and here you can see it. And there are views, and we are not interested in views. We only want tables when we search the database for values. There is another table in the information schema that is called columns. Create another query here. And as you can see, there are more columns in this table. there is information about the column, what type it is, and some other information. But using those two tables, we can go through all the tables in that database to extract tables, table names, and columns. And this is done. Selecting tables is done in this part. It uses quote name, and quote name is a way to make sure that this string can be used in a select statement. It encloses the string in delimiters. And we also extract the object. It's like a key in unique ID in the SQL Server. Yes, and here we have a where condition that compares with base table. Base table, table type, the column name compares with base table, and we are only going to look for the tables that are base tables. And the next condition here compares the previous schema and table name, so we increase the name for the next name in alphabetical order. And we also extract all tables that is created when the database is created. SSMS shipped is a special column for SQL Server, and if you create a new database, SQL Server will create some tables, default system tables or other type of tables it needs to work, and we are not interested in those tables. We're only interested in tables that holds information for the user. When we have found a table, we select columns from that table, and this script will find text values in text columns that holds text. And as you can see, it selects from information schema columns, and columns, as we showed previously, presents information about each column in the table. So we get the column name here, and it is also iterating the columns for that table, compare with table name and schema, and if the data type is char, varchar, and char, and varchar, we have a hit, and here we get each column in alphabetical order. And the last part here will insert values found in this temporary table, and that is done by creating a string that is executed using this transact SQL command. Commands here can be found if you search on the internet. I will not go in details how each command works. Video will be long and so long anyway. And the last part selects the result we got. So if we find in this database there were a lot of records that had USA, we remove that because we and execute the query. If I don't think there is any value that has USAA. No, empty. So in order, as you can see, this will find, it iterates all tables and then the columns that has text in it, and then insert those values in the temporary table, and then we have this temporary table to present the information. So that was how this logic works. Now we are at, we should start with the next section in this video, and that is how to implement this logic and use it by the selection tool. This script will be added, and also we going to create XML for that table, and then when we're done that, we can load that into selection tool. And now I'm going to code, so it will not be that much talking. It isn't that easy to create this video. I'm full of admire for other that do tutorial videos for how to code. So first step is that I will create a new script for this, and by doing that I will open, here we have Visual Studio, and I can do like this XML file, and when you install selection you get some start templates. So I will open one. I have that on another monitor here, so I will just find it. If I do like that, sorry for the delay. Here I have a script called script main simple, and this holds some information, and if I drag that, we can I will do like this. I think it's better. Copy, and we will add this to scripts, paste, and we call this test file. So as you can see now, this has some empty elements, but those elements are used in this script that selection tool can read. It has some description of these elements, what they are doing, and this is type of the format there is the format that you are using when you query XML. For this is standard. So selection name is the attribute for name, and error for script name, the name should be readable, and so you have some information here. If you have this included, this select XSD. That stands for XML schema definition, and it has rules how the format for this XML should be, and you get a lot of help if the editor you're using supports XML schema definition files, because then you get, for example here in Visual Studio, you get IntelliSense. And I will show you how to add shall see here. What we are going to do now is to create an XML section for this find text value in database, so the selection knows that this table exists. As you can see here, there is an error here, and that is, as I told you before in the video, that you get a lot of help including this. So if there are some error, the editor will inform you that here you have an error. There we have IntelliSense, and I remember the names. Paste. And then I see what the different columns are. The first column is called object ID, and it is an integer. I thought I copied it. The type, and then you get IntelliSense for the type, and that is an int. There. And if this field should be selectable, that you can add, that means that you can add conditions. We can add this too. Then selection will create logic in it that enables this to add conditions, so you can filter on this field. And copy that. Now we should do the same for those columns, and instead of creating, we can do one first. There. But this temporary table doesn't exist yet. It is created here. And how will we add this to selection tool in order to get it created before the query is executed? And to show that I have done that previously, so I will just paste that code. It will take too much time if I do that. I think it's not that fun to watch me. And what did I do there? I just forgot one element. As you can see, I immediately got an error. I forgot to copy this prepare. I will see if yes, I added the last prepare. So here you can recognize this script that we did here, that I showed there, and it has some other information that other text SQL. This is not SQL, that is Lua, and selection has an interface and programming interface for Lua, and by using that you can customize how selection works. So, and here we say what language that are used here, and this prepare section, this is a type of element that will be executed before the query is executed. So you can do a lot of stuff before to prepare the final query that is shown to the user. This is a rather advanced example, so it's mainly to show how what is possible with selection, because you can do a lot of things. There is another thing here that we are going to change, because as you could see here in this script, we used a little trick. That part is replaced by the column found that was used to search for this value. We had USA there. So we find a column name and replaces that part here in order to make it to work in this text script here, because we have found one table and one column that holds text, and we need to find this condition if we get any hits for the value that we are searching for. All those values that that is found will be inserted in this temporary table. And that is almost that is done here. It uses some tricks, because when you when you're going to search a database, they are often very, very large. It takes time to go through the complete all tables in that database, and if you don't want to, if you have a large database, you don't want to go through all tables, or you need to optimize that in order, otherwise it could take hours, and that is this logic here are doing some tricks for that. And also, if you have a result and you don't change the value that you search for, you don't want to recreate this result, but you maybe want to select from this result. And if you have this temporary table, you don't need to, you can use that. You only want to change this result when the value that you're searching for changes. So if you have USA and we want to search for columns or names here. Maybe we are looking for some special tables that, and we are not interested in that. Then you can search for this and these. This name there, it's flag names. Condition hash nowhere. That means that conditions that are marked with nowhere, only if they changes, then this script is rerun. So it isn't executed if you change conditions. Here, as you see, there are a lot of columns here. So if we place a nowhere for that, and I will do that now. Here, and we also use that for there. As I can see here, I have a little old that schema description marks that as an error. It shouldn't do that. But this, I will not break this video because I thought I will upload it as a one block, not block, in one session. It takes time to edit. And now we have these values. We also need to include that table template are used to include in these sections. Tables are those that are shown in the selection tool. Table template is handy if you have a lot of tables that are used in the same fields. You can add fields to the table template and later include that in the table. You don't have to duplicate this information. So I will use an ID here. We can call this find text, and I will insert that here. And that error was away because here the rules in this XML schema definition says that there has to exist one table template with that ID. And here we have a field in this table and we are not using any, so we only have to prefix and name. What are those? Yeah, the name should be the name that is used for the table. It's the name in the database for that table. And you can use tables in a relation database. Tables are used in many ways and you can join them or etc. And this XML script is formatted as how the table should be joined with other fields. So one table can exist on a lot of places if the script is large. And then we need to create a unique ID, and to do that we add a prefix, so these two values will be combined for an unique ID. and here we just can call it find one. Save that, and we should also do another thing here. As you know, we had this replacement, and that should be fixed also. This is a bit I don't go into details exactly what is done here, because if you add this attribute for a field, then selection tool will create a condition element for this. It's a shorter way to create conditions for a field. But if the condition has different settings that you cannot copy, like say here we say how the type here is string, and that says the type there doesn't need to be the same type as the type in the database. The type there informs selection how to treat the result value. So you can have one type there and another type here. Here it is the same, but you can have mix and match, and selection will try to adapt to how you specify in the script. As we can see here, the condition is 2 underscores, and that is matching this replacement. Where did I have it? Was higher up here. And we also added this nowhere, and that means that the query that is generated from selection will not generate this part when it executes against the database. So I think that should be all for this. Well, this will be exciting. I hope it works. The main difficult part here is this script, as you can see. It is for another video to explain exactly. You know how the SQL works, and the main advantage using selection is that you can create these big queries and reuse them, because the selection tool is a tool that can mix and match different queries, change a bit, execute them again, and you can play a lot with queries. It has an advanced query engine that can do a lot of stuff with queries, and so you don't have to rewrite them again. If now we have done this script, and it will work to find text on any SQL Server database, and we don't have to edit in it. So if we had this script, we have to change this value all the time, and if you want to search different parts, we have to edit those again, and that takes time. Here we just have it. So now I'm going to see if I can load that script. I think I've probably forgot something. we are going to use this connection that will connect to the north wind, and we're going to change this script here. It is on the same, what did we call it? We call it test find. And we will not keep this connection. This is the bug sec, as you can see. No key element. Okay, I'm going to fix that. I am in a development process to make this simpler for I can do anything here to use it to create this XML by themselves. There. Now we are going to create a new temporary query, and as you can see here, this table exists, and if we add all fields, no result. And why didn't we get any result? The reason for this we can find in this script, because we have if this filter, and that filter is extracted from the enclosing query using Lua. It has, as you can see here, we create a Lua query, and that query talks, this Lua object talks to selection, and we can do a lot of stuff with the query. And if that filter is empty, then go down here, and it will create this table instead. So as you can see, this text, add select condition for value to search the database, and that was what we were getting there. So I will select, and I type USA, and we are going to search, and we got this result, but this result was much smaller. And why was it much smaller? Well, one thing that makes a result smaller is if you use distinct, and you can set different properties for a query, and we have this. So we shall change this, because default queries are distinct settings. No duplicates, yes, and the distinct in SQL, as you know, will remove duplicate rows. Now no duplicates. Now it will show duplicates. So if we run again, we got a lot of more results. Here we used the like operator, so it will search all text fields that has USA in them. If we sort on, as you can see now, when we just changes the sort order, or we can select here in the name, and it will not recreate the temporary, because it will only recreate this temporary table if we are changing that value or the table name. And that was set in this script here. This nowhere, and the rules for that condition hash. There is a description. If you hover over this attribute, there is some information there. So if we are going to add a value, one fast way to add values to a condition is just to press a value here in the result, and it will jump up into the edit field here. And here we are going to use equal, so exact match. And this, now there is the temporary table that holds the result will not be recreated. It just selects from the already generated table. So we press search, and we got all the hits from this country field from customers table. So if we use this previously done this script, I will show here, and here we have a lot of logic, finding numbers, finding text, and finding dates. And it's each find section is almost equal. It just selects different column types and some specific logic and how to insert and match to the value is modified against finding text. But apart from that, this will just work, and it doesn't take that long time to create scripts like this. This also has a logic to query against SQL Server system tables, so you can check what columns and tables that exist in the database. I will add a link to another video that shows this. But then you can start selection, click on this. This connection is done using this script. I will show that. Here we have the search value anywhere in DB. Search value anywhere in DB. So if we click that, and now we're connected, create a new query, find date, find empty columns, and so. And it's also simple to modify this if you want some special logic. So that was a bit in-depth explanation on how to do a script for selection that finds values anywhere in the database.